France had bombers most people have never heard of. Before the fall in 1940, they were already outdated, but they still flew into hell. Here's every single one. Amiot 143. The Amiot 143. Honestly, it looked like a flying greenhouse. This thing was already ancient when the war started. With a top speed barely over 300 km per hour, crews called it a death trap, but they flew it anyway during the Battle of France. Bloch MB.200. The Bloch MB.200. Picture this: fixed landing gear, open cockpits in some versions, and painfully slow. By 1940, this bomber was basically target practice for German fighters. But in the early days, it was all France had. Farman F.222. The Farman F.222 was a 4-engine heavy bomber that looked impressive on paper. In reality, it was sluggish and underarmed. Still, French crews took these lumbering giants on night bombing raids over Germany in 1940, knowing they might not come back. Liore et Olivier Leo 451. Now this is interesting. The Leo 451 was actually modern, fast, and capable. It could hit 495 km per hour and carried a decent bomb load. The problem? France only had about 450 of them when war broke out. Too little, too late. Potes 540. The Potes 540 was a multi-role aircraft that tried to do everything: reconnaissance, bombing, even transport. Jack of all trades, master of none. By 1940, it was hopelessly outclassed but still flying missions because France was desperate. Bloch MB.210. An upgrade from the MB.200, the Bloch MB.210 featured enclosed crew positions and better engines. But better is relative. It was still too slow and too vulnerable. German fighters chewed these up during the Battle of France. Amiot 351-354. The Amiot 351 and 354 were twin-engine bombers that showed promise with their sleek design and good speed. But production delays meant only a handful saw action before France fell. What could have been, right? Breguet 460 Volta. The Breguet 460 Volta was a heavy bomber designed in the mid-1930s. Only a few were built, and they saw limited service. It had 4 engines and looked menacing, but by wartime standards, it was already yesterday's technology. Breguet 693. Here's where it gets interesting. The Breguet 693 was a ground attack aircraft, essentially a light bomber designed to support troops. Fast and maneuverable, it actually performed well against German columns in 1940, but again, too few, too late. Douglas DB7, Boston or Havoc. France actually bought American. The Douglas DB7, which the Allies later called the Boston or Havoc, was ordered by France before the war. Modern, fast, and effective. Some were delivered and flew with French crews, while others ended up with the RAF after France fell. Martin 167 Maryland. Another American purchase. The Martin 167 Maryland was a light bomber and reconnaissance aircraft. France ordered a bunch, but only received them as the country was collapsing. The Free French forces later used them extensively in North Africa. Potes 63.11. The Potes 63.11 was primarily a reconnaissance aircraft, but it could carry bombs too. Thousands were built, and they bore the brunt of losses during the Battle of France. Slow, underarmed, and flying straight into German-controlled skies. Farman F.220. The Farman F.220 series were 4-engine heavy bombers that looked like flying boats without the boat part. They conducted some of the first Allied bombing raids on Germany, including targets in Berlin. Brave crews, outdated machines. Amiot 370. The Amiot 370 was a racing aircraft converted into a reconnaissance bomber. Fast for its time, but production issues meant it never made a significant impact. Just another what-if in France's aerial arsenal. Loire-Nieuport LN.401-411. France's attempt at a dive bomber. The Loire-Nieuport 401 and 411 were naval aircraft that could operate from aircraft carriers or land bases. They saw action during the Norwegian campaign, but they were no Stuka. Leitkower 298. A torpedo bomber floatplane. The Leitkower 298 was used by French naval aviation for anti-submarine and torpedo attacks. Slow and vulnerable, but it was what the French Navy had for coastal defense operations. Bloch MB.131. The Bloch MB.131 was a reconnaissance bomber that entered service in the late 1930s. Like most French bombers, It was quickly outclassed. Still, crews flew them during the desperate days of May and June 1940. Potez 542. An improved version of the Potez 540, the 542 had better engines and performance. But better still meant obsolete by 1940 standards. Used for bombing, reconnaissance, and even as a trainer after France fell. Amiot 340 series. The Amiot 340 series were mail planes converted for military use. Yes, mail planes. France was literally turning civilian aircraft into bombers because they didn't have enough real ones. Desperate times. Bloch MB.174. Now here's a surprise. The Bloch MB.174 was a reconnaissance bomber that was actually excellent. Fast, modern, well-armed. If France had more of these earlier, history might have been different. The Free French used them extensively later. Breguet 521 Versatility. A massive flying boat used for maritime patrol and bombing. The Breguet 521 Versatility could stay airborne for hours, hunting submarines and enemy ships. Not a traditional bomber, but it could drop bombs when needed. Caudron C.714. Technically a lightweight fighter, but the C.714 could carry bombs. It was so underperforming that French pilots refused to fly it. It ended up being given to Polish pilots in France, who flew them with desperate courage. Leo H.257. Another flying boat, the Leo H.257 was used for long-range maritime patrol and could carry bombs for attacks on shipping. These aircraft operated from French naval bases and saw action in the Mediterranean. Farman NC.223. A converted mail plane turned into a long-range bomber. The Farman NC.223 actually bombed Berlin in June 1940, one of the few French bombers to reach the German capital. A final act of defiance before the fall. ANF Les Muro 115. Primarily a reconnaissance aircraft, the ANF Les Muro 115 could carry light bombs. Used extensively during the phony war period for intelligence gathering over German lines before the shooting really started. Potez 25. Yes, a biplane. The Potez 25 was ancient by World War II standards, dating back to the 1920s. But in France's colonies and in the early days, some were still being used for light bombing and observation. Museum pieces flying into war. Amiot 143M. A night bomber variant of the Amiot 143, this version was specifically equipped for nocturnal operations. Still slow, still vulnerable, but darkness was its only protection as crews struck at German positions. Breguet 691. The Breguet 691 was the predecessor to the 693, designed for ground attack missions. It packed serious firepower with cannons and bombs, perfect for shredding German armor columns. Performance was decent, but numbers were the problem. Sencac NC.150. An experimental multi-role aircraft that could bomb, fight, and perform reconnaissance. Only prototypes were built before France fell. Another example of French innovation that never got the chance to prove itself in mass production. Amiot H.220. A light bomber and trainer aircraft. The Amiot H.220 was obsolete before the war even started, but in the chaos of 1940, anything that could carry a bomb was pressed into service, even trainers. Bloch MB.480. A proposed heavy bomber that never made it past the drawing board. The MB.480 was designed to compete with modern bombers, but the fall of France in 1940 killed the project before a single prototype flew. Sencac Cow.700. An advanced twin-engine bomber that showed real promise with modern features and good performance. But like so many French designs, it arrived too late. Only prototypes existed when Germany invaded. Amiot 356. Part of the Amiot 350 family, the 356 was a reconnaissance bomber variant with improved capabilities. Fast and modern, but production delays meant France had only a handful when they were desperately needed. Liore et Olivier H.246. A 4-engine flying boat used for maritime patrol and could carry bombs for anti-shipping strikes. These operated from French coastal bases, patrolling for German submarines and surface vessels. Potez 650. A military version of a civilian airliner, the Potez 650 was used for liaison, light bombing, and transport duties. Not a frontline bomber, but in total war, every aircraft that could drop a bomb was used. Breguet Brother 482. An advanced dive bomber design that remained in development when France fell. It incorporated lessons learned from German Stukas, but the project was abandoned when the armistice was signed. If this opened your eyes to a forgotten chapter of World War II, hit that like button and subscribe.